Brexit and its impact on the tourism industry. Brexit, tourism, and geopolitics. Brexit, British exit, refers to the movement within the UK to leave the European Union. At its core, Brexit is a geopolitical movement. Likewise, tourism itself relies upon movement and commerce between different geographies and political territories. It is innately geopolitical. Both Brexit and tourism are embedded in the UK and Europeans' political, economic, socio-cultural and environmental context. Tourism, however, is especially strongly affected by policy changes, particularly those surrounding Brexit. The exact terms of the Brexit agreement between the UK and the EU are still in flux. What is certain is that Brexit will have a profound impact on the tourism industry going forwards. Transformation. Reversed path dependency. For its advocates, Brexit was a policy designed to avoid dependency and regulation from the European Union, EU. However, these Brexit advocates grossly underestimated the networks and potential impacts of Brexit. Brexit has specific consequences for tourism in particular. In withdrawing from the EU, the UK may lose its most apparent benefit from that supranational union, the ease of free movement across national borders, which would otherwise facilitate the tourism trade and its development. At least within the EU, many studies have speculated that Brexit is tacitly anti-tourism. Hesitant transition. One way academics have conceived of Brexit is as a hesitant transition. This phrase means it is a gradual or lagging change. Academics use this term because it captures the following features of Brexit. Negotiations have been prolonged and hesitant among a wide contingent of the British political and business community, even within the Conservative Party itself. The distinct trajectories and multiple transformations of different industries or sectors resulting from Brexit. The distinct impacts of Brexit upon different subsectors within tourism, accommodation, hospital, attractions, etc., in terms of kind, time of, speed of transformations. Tourism crises. Brexit will not uniformly impact the tourism industry. Even so, many studies suggest that Brexit implementation is a crisis for tourism. Contextual crises. We need to put the Brexit crisis into context. Brexit emerged from a complicated history, particularly the 2008 financial crisis and the austerity that followed it. Brexit has origins in rhetoric that asserts the need to take back control from faceless bureaucrats in the EU. Consequential crises. Aside from the contextual background, the Brexit vote itself created problems. Tourism development relies upon stability, be it political, cultural, or economical. The uncertainty of the Brexit vote and the subsequent negotiations threaten stability. Negative mega-event. A mega-event is an event that has vast and wide-ranging impacts that are of international significance. Mega-events go on to define the image or brand of a place after they happen. Brexit, in this sense, is a sustained mega-event with the end goal of reinvigorating Britain on the global stage. As a mega-event with wide-ranging consequences, Brexit will have both positive and negative results. The 52-48 Leave Remain vote showed how deeply divided British society was on the issue of Europe. As a result, many academics and policymakers argue that this divide will preclude Brexit from producing a strong coherent image for the UK. For this reason, numerous academics employ the level negative mega-event to conceptualize Brexit. Supply-side issues. Supply side refers to the availability of products, services, commodities, and assets for purchase or use by consumers, tourists in this case. In the context of the Brexit, the key dimensions of tourism industry supply-side issues are EU migrant labour, education, training, transport infrastructure, food supply, taxation, regulations. As we know from previous modules, tourism supply, the products accessible for purchase by tourists, are complex because they have both tangible and intangible factors. Dimensions. Migration positively affects recruitment in the UK tourism sector because the preponderance of seasonal and part-time work makes roles flexible for EU migrants. This positive impact is particularly strong during peak demand times. During the EU referendum, 23 June 2016, 24% of the tourism workforce was non-British nationals, with 39% of these workers coming from the EU. Brexit. Britain's reformed immigration system will exclude many low-skill roles ineligible for migrant workers, as they will not have enough points to qualify for Tier 1 or 2. These restrictions will have a severe impact on the tourism industry, including fewer workers, more staff training, higher prices, lost investment. Migration control. Perhaps the biggest factor that will force the UK tourism industry to adapt is the termination of free movement, the right of EU citizens to move to, reside in and work in any EU country for EU citizens. Planned point-based tier system will exclude many workers seeking employment in the tourism industry. Short-term options, like seasonal work permits, fail to meet staff training and non-seasonal employment needs. The bias toward high-skilled workers in allowing visas removed any preferential treatment of EU citizens. For UK citizens and companies working and operating in the EU, Brexit may create these difficulties. Complicate migrants' legal and employment status, particularly with taxation and social security. Increased operating costs and complexity for UK holiday companies operating abroad. International transport. The EU has an integrated transport system encompassing aviation, rail and maritime operations. It has also catered to staff training and working hours requirements. The EU aviation industry is especially liberalised, with it guaranteeing EU airlines the right to operate point-to-point air routes anywhere within the EU. This results from the following legislative initiatives: Single European Sky, Open Skies Agreements, European Economic Area (EEA). These measures have allowed budget airlines to flourish, increased the number of routes available, and decreased costs for consumers. Brexit, especially a no-deal version, is expected to cause substantial disruption to this transportation network, especially where the UK is directly involved. Funding. Tourism is especially valuable for the economy of rural areas. Previously, the EU has funded tourism development through agricultural, rural, and environmental initiatives, particularly the Common Agricultural Policy (CAP). Councils across the UK have also identified European funding as an essential income source for local museums and other cultural and heritage sites. To avoid disruptions to the UK tourism industry, the UK must develop a replacement scheme for these sources of funding and encourage investment. Taxation and regulations. In the EU single market, the EU Customs Union governs tariff-free trade. If the UK is excluded from the single market, the following economic regulations are particularly contentious. VAT rules. Tour Operator Margins Scheme, TOMS. Air Passenger Duty, APD. Brexit may allow the UK to implement competitive taxation policies, but this may be offset by barriers to business resulting from exclusion from the EU and potential trade barriers. Demand-side issues. In the context of tourism, the demand side is about the number of tourists who wish to access a destination, product, or service and how much they will pay to do so. Supply and demand are intimately connected. Here are the 4 basic rules. Increased demand and unchanged supply results in a shortage with higher prices. Decreased demand and unchanged supply results in a surplus with lower prices. Unchanged demand and increased supply results in a surplus with lower prices. Unchanged demand and decreased supply results in a shortage with higher prices. Domestic tourism effects. Between 2011 to 2017, most metrics for domestic tourism in between, including leisure and business trips, especially, show a decline or lower than predicted growth. This reflects pre-Brexit uncertainty and austerity. Outbound tourism. In 2016, the UK was the 4th highest outbound tourism spender globally, £26 billion, and tourism provided 400,000 jobs. Despite Brexit uncertainty, outbound tourism and spending grew in 2013 to 2017. 13 of 20 destinations for UK tourists are in the EU. Inbound tourism. The decline of sterling in 2017 meant the UK saw an increase in visitor numbers. This was potentially also influenced by visitors trying to take advantage of the UK still being in the EU. In 2018, the number of inbound tourists decreased, but this was matched in many other countries. Behind the USA, the UK is the second most popular higher education destination, with 1 in 5 students being international. In terms of regions, London sees by far the largest number of visitors and the highest spenders, followed by Edinburgh, Manchester, Birmingham, and Liverpool. Impact on UK tourism. Areas of impact. ABTA, the leading association of tour operators and travel agencies, has outlined 4 areas of impact from Brexit. These are: consumer. This includes impacts related to freedom of movement, roaming fees, the Package Travel Directive, European Health Insurance Cards, Consumer Rights Directive and passenger rights. Tourism, events, and hospitality, and transportation. This includes impacts upon human capital, skills shortage, and the quality of service. Investment and currency. This includes impacts on the pound, instability, and the risk of investment. Business and consumer confidence. Detrimental impacts on business confidence, high costs, less consumer spending. The Tourism Alliance argues for the following areas of impact: introduction of customs charges or tariffs, introduction of non-tariff barriers, divergence from EU regulations, restricted access to EU initiatives, tighter UK immigration policy, UK withdrawal from EU travel agreement, altered border controls, move from EU consumer protection, restrictions on UK citizens working in the EU. The TARS surveys on these topics suggest that most people view all of these impacts areas as likely to progressing very negatively, negative, or with little impact. Short and long-term impact perceptions. In the Tourism Alliance's survey, the public perceived Brexit's short and long-term impacts on inbound tourism in the UK similarly. Short-term, the pound's drastic decline made UK tourism cheaper for global travellers, especially from the EU, and for domestic tourists. The weaker pound, however, makes outbound tourism more expensive for UK tourists, potentially discouraging travel. Long-term. As visa regulations or other fees are likely to be put in place for inbound EU travellers, tourists may be deterred. Realistically, the long-term consequences are hard to calculate and will not become apparent until a Brexit settlement is reached and prices, services and quality become stable. Managing the impacts. Like most of Brexit, what represents effective management of the UK's withdrawal is hard to pin down. The UK's Tourism Alliance has argued successful Brexit management should focus on clarifying the UK-EU funding relationship to ensure that both sides contribute and benefit the arrangement, consolidating EU works roles and discouraging mass immigration, increasing overseas marketing activities to negate negative associations of Brexit and increase tourist numbers, clarifying the eventual Brexit deal so businesses know where they stand. In terms of the Brexit settlement, the Tourism Alliance notes the four most essential regulations or directives are: free movement, VAT rules, package travel, working hours.